question is, are you ready?
Throwdown Nation, we are live. It is a Monday night. We are rolling on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter/X, Facebook, and Twitch. It is a rescheduled episode 90 of the Throwdown with Matt. And today we are throwing down with a wrestler who is based out of Salem, Massachusetts by way of Mobile, Alabama, and is the two-time Diamond Championship Wrestling Women's Champion. Tonight's guest, Vyra LeStrange. How you doing tonight? I had you muted. I'm sorry.
That's all
anyway,
right.
how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. And for those of you that are watching this live, if you have any questions or comments, just throw them in the chat, and we'll either handle them as we go or do a little Q&A at the end. So we'll go ahead and get started with the first and the most obvious question, and that is, how long have you been wrestling?
Let's see, April 30th. So the last day of this month will be a year since I started training.
Nice. And, I already know the answer to this, but who trained you? Who do you train with?
I am trained by Scott Armstrong.
And how did that relationship come about? How did you end up getting to train with one of the Armstrongs?
So my wrestling background is rather unique. I have had experience prior getting into Diamond Championship Wrestling. But long story short, I very first started training when I was 13, and I had my first match when I was 14, and then I had to stop because of the age or whatever. So then about October-ish of 2023, I got back into training. I was being trained by Josh Payne, the Rainbow Warrior, and we did training at his house once or twice a week, but I ended up being the only student left. So I went over to Diamond Championship Wrestling, and that's how I got started over there.
Nice. So one of my recent guests actually sort of proposed this challenge, and I liked it, so I've actually incorporated this question into my repertoire of questions, and that is, try to sum your wrestling persona up in 5 words.
Okay. That's a tricky challenge. I like that one. But,
This was actually given to me by one of my fairly recent guests. He's actually a Ukrainian pro wrestler who is currently based in Spain, a guy named
awesome.
Jake Kobe. So anyway, and he brought that up. He said he likes to almost do what they call TED Talks about his persona, and just trying to sum it up in succinctly like that. So anyway.
Okay. I would definitely say dominant, creative, maybe a little vindictive. What's two other really? It's a little sneaky, definitely a little sneaky, and at the end of the day, overall badass.
I like it. I like it. So, based on what you've told me so far, I'm getting the impression that you have been a lifelong fan. Is that pretty accurate?
For the most part, yes. There was a time in my life where, after I started training the second time, I'm not really going to touch on that too much because that's just a time that's not really worth acknowledging anymore, honestly. But there were some things that happened within that training facility that should have never happened, and it caused me to lose my love for wrestling. So I probably went about 2 or 3 years without watching it, having anything to do with it. But I found my way back.
Gotcha. So, what is your earliest wrestling related memory? What is the earliest thing you remember watching or seeing in wrestling?
I actually remember the very first night I watched wrestling.
Really?
I don't even know how I managed to remember this, but I do. I was roughly 8 or 9 years old. I was in the third grade, and I wasn't feeling too good that day, so I went home early. And my grandparents, who are probably the biggest wrestling fans I know, um, Monday Night Raw was on. I was at their house, and I had my head on my grandma's lap, and she didn't want me watching wrestling because little girls aren't supposed to watch that kind of stuff. But my papa saw differently, and it was actually the main thing I remember was right when Triple H was having a feud with the Legacy, and they just beat the crap out of him. And then Triple H went on the mic and said, "I need to make a phone call," talking about Shawn Michaels, which led up to the whole SummerSlam of 2009. So yeah, that's the first thing I remember about watching wrestling.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, like I was telling you before we went live, I've been a fan since I was 11. And at the time, I was a kid in Florida watching Florida Championship Wrestling. This was back in the early 1980s. And a guy named Gordon Soley was doing the commentary. And the first feud I remember watching was Dusty Rhodes and Kevin Sullivan, and
Hmm.
and man, that was when you're 11 years old, Kevin Sullivan was a scary dude, and he really made a big impression on me, and but anyway, that's neither
Right.
here nor there. So, what does your family think about all this? What do they think about the fact that you're pursuing a career in professional wrestling?
I think they have some mixed feelings toward it. They're trying to be supportive of it, but I always get the vibe that there's just something about them that wishes I wasn't doing it. I don't know if it's the fear of me getting hurt, or they remember how it was when I was around it when I was 14. But they try to be supportive, which is the main thing.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a tough business, and our being a parent myself, one of our jobs as parents is to you don't want to see your kid get hurt. So I mean, I
Right.
get it. I get it. So, away from wrestling, what are some of your other hobbies and interests?
Honestly, my whole focus is wrestling. It's my whole mindset. So when I'm not in the ring, I'm at the gym. I'm at home studying wrestling. Like, I live wrestling. That's what I do. If I'm not doing that, then I'm with my dog.
Awesome.
My dog is my
Awesome.
best friend. So my
Uh,
life revolves around wrestling and my dog.
what kind of dog do you have?
I have a pit bull.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, she's my best friend.
Awesome. So, outside of wrestling, what person inspires you the most and why?
What person outside of wrestling? Um, I think it might have to be my grandma. My grandma, me and her have been best friends since I was literally born. I've been attached to her my whole life, and she's been through a lot over the years, and she's still always has a smile on her face, always puts others before herself. Just the greatest person I've ever met.
Awesome. Awesome. So, you are from Salem, Massachusetts, by way of Mobile, Alabama. What is your favorite thing about Mobile?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay.
Um, the history behind it's pretty cool. The beach is here. That's it.
Gotcha. So, they say that the best wrestling persona is essentially yourself turned up to 11. So, tell us about in-ring Vyra and compare and contrast her with everyday you.
Vyra is seriously misunderstood. Um, she's seen as the villain. She is the villain. But Vyra never wanted to be the villain. It was just the only way she could get anyone to pay attention to her. And that is something very true about myself. They always say you're a villain in someone else's story. And even though sometimes, like, I try to do right and I try to be the best I possibly can, sometimes it's just not enough. So I have to take matters into my own hands. And that's where me and Vyra are right there with each other.
Gotcha. So, tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? What were your thoughts going into it, thoughts coming out of it, all that good stuff?
My very first
And
match,
yeah,
I was in a group. I was the leader of my own faction called the Hidden Gems. And
okay.
the idea of us was the fact that we had been training at the Diamond Mine Wrestling Academy for quite a while. But after week, show after show, we were never given any opportunities. And so I put it together between myself, someone named Iron Cross, Brian Baudelaire, and the woodsman Tyler Woods. And we devised a plan to get ourselves in that ring. So at the very end of an episode of Synergy, we came out there while Scott Armstrong was talking, and we demanded for him to give us a match, and it never happened. So I slapped him, and then we destroyed the ring, and which ended up getting us suspended, which was fine. It was perfectly fine because Brian Baudelaire, he's the rich guy. He paid for our fee, so we didn't care about that. And then about 2 weeks later, maybe a little bit longer, 3 weeks, I demanded I got my match or things would be a lot worse for everyone. So myself and the champion at the time, Sid Silver, this was my first match at Diamond, and I got the championship in less than 20 seconds in my debut match. And of
Nice.
course, I used the Hidden Gems, because why wouldn't I?
Absolutely. Take advantage of every opportunity, everything you can use to gain the advantage. Do it.
Of course. That's what happened. I won my debut match as the women's champion in less than 20 seconds, and that was probably one of the best feelings I ever had in my whole life. And
Absolutely.
from then on, even though I was a hidden gem, how hidden can you be when you have gold around your waist?
This is true. This is true.
So then from that point on, I made sure everyone knew who I was. And it's got me where I am today.
Gold pretty much propels you into the spotlight. So we've heard about the first match. Now tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of.
My favorite match I've been a part of was probably about let's see, this is April. So yeah, about a month ago, we did a pay-per-view and it was against Persia Pierce, and I successfully defended the women's championship. At this point, I was already the two-time, and me and Persia, we went out there and we easily had one of the greatest matches of both of our careers, and we got to do it live on pay-per-view in a sold-out crowd of over 400 people.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice. That's great. That's awesome. So, what is the longest distance you have ever driven to get to a match?
I believe it was maybe close to 200 miles there and back.
Okay. And I know everybody has them, but what is your biggest in-ring pet peeve?
My biggest in-ring pet peeve. That's a good question. And I have a lot. So I'm trying to sit here and figure out which one would be my I think it's I've never been asked that question before. That's a tricky question. But actually it's probably not even it may not be my biggest one, but it's definitely one that irritates me, and it's probably about 90%, well, not even 90%, it's probably completely my fault. When I go out, I wear like this really long cloak, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to trip me up. It really needs to be hemmed up some. And it's, and when I'm trying to like walk around the ring and like be Vyra, it takes away from it. But that one's completely on me.
Gotcha. So I know that there are essentially sort of 2.5 ways of preparing for a match. You can either work it out with your opponent in the back, call it in the ring, or do kind of a hybrid of both. Do you have a preference?
Well, every match I've ever been in, it's kind of like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then we go out there and about 90% of it does not happen. So what I prefer to do is, okay, well, let's just put a rough draft together, and then we'll go out and we'll just do basic chain, nothing crazy. See what the crowd thinks. I think you should always work in the way that the crowd is responding to it, because they're the ones that are paying to watch. So if what you have planned is not entertaining, why would you do it? So
exactly.
I always say just get a rough draft together and just let the match flow. Because if you're gonna, I have never been in a match where everything was called spot for spot in the back. Then I went out there and the match happened spot for spot that we planned.
Right, of course.
There's just put a rough draft together, because it's going to be a lot. Yeah. To me, I can't remember all that. Just tell me what you want to do. I'll tell you what I think and what I want to do, and then we'll just figure it out.
Absolutely. And you know, for somebody so young in the business, you know, you've got understanding beyond your years, you know, about the importance of reading the room and seeing what the vibe in the crowd is, you know, and I mean, stuff like that is just so important. And I feel like a lot of the really young talent doesn't get that, or at least they don't get it as quickly as you seem to have. So that's huge compliment on you. So and
I give
probably
credit a
also of how
lot
you.
to, yeah, I give credit to Scott and Josh. They preach that religiously, and Josh Payne, who I mentioned earlier, he's grown to be one of my best friends. And I can't tell you how many times I've woken up at like 9 o'clock in the morning, but then he sent me like a whole book list of just wrestling psychology at like 3 in the morning, because for some strange reason that man does not believe in sleep. But yeah, so he's always my go-to because me and him are very close. It's nice to have friends in the business that are true vets, and he's been in the business for over 25 years. So I
Yep.
give him a lot of credit for a lot of things I have learned. But some really and truly is, if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you don't.
Yep. Couldn't agree with you more. So, if you could only be one, would you rather be great in the ring or great on the mic?
Well, I can honestly say my mic skills are way, way better than my in-ring skills. And I love that. But I also think it depends on the direction and where your career is headed. Because if I want to be like a manager, why in the world would I want to be good in the ring when I just need to mostly be good on the mic? But I think it just depends on how you want your career to go. But I just love being on the mic. The mic to me is so much more fun than the actual, like, the psychology of wrestling, and the mic skills to me is more fun than the actual wrestling itself. So for me, because I love being on the mic, I'm going to say the mic.
Gotcha. So, do you have a preference yourself between working heel or babyface? It sounds like you've worked mostly in a heel capacity, but do you have a preference?
I definitely prefer being a heel. I've only been a babyface about twice, and each time I was told it's not believable. And that's fair. That's very fair. But being a heel is just, God, I love being a heel. It's so much fun.
Well, I can tell you that as a fan, throughout my fandom, I have always gravitated more toward the heels.
Oh, same.
I've always just found them to be more compelling characters. Because usually, there's a lot of backstory to the heel as to why they are the way they are. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
generally, they're not being an asshole just to be an asshole. There's a reason,
Oh,
you know.
I say that all the I say the exact same thing word for word all the time, and that doesn't apply to just wrestling. Like, I'm a huge, gigantic Disney fan, and I always love the villains because I'm like, I love that. I wonder why they're like that, because like you just said, 9 times out of 10, when a heel is a heel, there's a reason behind it.
Yep,
And so,
absolutely.
like, I just love like backstories on the villains. I love to see how they respond to different scenarios. Like, it's just, I feel like you can be a little bit more creative as a heel.
Yeah, yeah. And and I love a good slow burn, long-term storyline. I mean, I love long-term storytelling. I just do. So, what's your favorite Disney movie? You mentioned you're a huge Disney fan. What are some of your favorites?
The Lion King. I love The Lion King. I will die on the hill that The Lion King is the greatest Disney movie to ever exist. When I was a little kid, from the ages of 5 to 8, so that's 3 years, I watched The Lion King every single day for 3 years straight. And it's my favorite movie. I love The Lion King.
Gotcha. Well, Scar is like the ultimate heel. I mean,
Right? He's the best heel.
so In terms of your in-ring work and your promos, who would you say are some of your influences? Who has helped to in terms of things you've watched and such, who has helped shape Vyra LeStrange?
Mick Foley was a big inspo. The way, like, he had so many different gimmicks, but he had a specific promo style for each one, and he could switch it up just like that. That's pure talent that is very rare, and he just makes it look so easy. And as far as like my in-ring work goes, I don't know if I necessarily have like a specific role model I try to follow on. Um, that's just kind of something I've just watched, like older wrestling versus new wrestling. New wrestling, you have all these acrobatic spots and stuff that I am not. And then you go back to like the older days and you might see a spot like that once every blue moon, but for the most part, it's just simple, basic wrestling. And
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that. Because to
Not at
me, the
all.
acrobatic stuff I'm gonna quote Scott here. It's phony baloney. There's no, like, to me, it doesn't look like real tough competition. But if I'm going to be in the ring, I'm getting in the ring to win. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get that win. I'm not going to sit there and show people, oh, I can do a backflip. Okay, that's cool. But can that get you a win? You see where I'm going with this?
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, and I agree with you. I mean, I think there is a place for the high spot stuff, but but without the fundamentals of actual wrestling, it's all sizzle and no steak. I mean, so um, and I completely agree with you about Mick Foley. His promo, his Kane Dewey promo from his ECW days is still just one of my favorite promos of all time. Just the pure emotion and anger in that promo is, I mean, it sends chills down my spine. But I mean, drawing from the fact that somebody held a sign up saying to Kane his son. I mean,
Right.
I get it. I couldn't imagine that. But I mean, he really channeled that anger and that fury into that promo, and that's that's an amazing piece of mic work.
It really is.
So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? A match that just is just over the top for you, and you can have watched it a million times and it never gets old? Is there a match that sticks out?
Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25.
I have asked that question in all of these that I've done so far, and that particular match, I have gotten more responses of that match than any other match. I mean, it is truly an amazing match. But yeah, I just wanted you to know you're in good company for loving that match.
God, I might watch that match later, actually. It's just, everything about it was just pure cinema. It was perfect. They were so on beat together. It was great.
Well, a match that I always recommend to young wrestlers who may not have seen this, and I'm going to give you some homework. If you haven't seen this match, look for it. It's probably out there on YouTube somewhere. This is a match from back in 1989 from a WCW Clash of the Champions. It was an I Quit match between Ric Flair and Terry Funk. That match is a master class in ring psychology and storytelling. Seek it out, watch it, study it. You'll thank me later.
Any
So,
match with Ric Flair is bound to be one of the greatest matches to ever happen.
oh, for sure. And I mean, Flair and Funk had just such amazing chemistry. So, well worth your time. Like I said, you'll thank me later. It is top notch. So, in your opinion, who are the best male and female wrestlers in the world right now?
That are active?
Yes, that right now, who are the best male and best female?
Okay. For female, I'm going to have to say is there like a number or just
I mean, it doesn't have to be a number. Just
okay? God, there's a lot.
Yeah.
So I will say Natalia. Natalia is actually one of my dream matches to have, and she's kind of at a point in her career where she's not like at the top anymore, but she can still go and she knows how to work. So
Oh yeah.
Natalia is definitely there. Bailey's another one. Great ring awareness, entertaining. She's got everything. Love Bailey. When they don't have Liv Morgan in the whole messed up, like all these crazy storylines, and they actually get her in the ring and actually let her work. Liv Morgan, she's great. She's absolutely phenomenal in the ring. Once you look, I'm not a big fan of the whole storyline they have going for her right now, but once you look past that and actually look at the wrestling, she's actually really, really good at what she does. So those are my top 3 in the business right now for the women. And then as far as male talent, Seth Rollins, I love Seth Rollins. He's one of my favorites right now. There's nothing about him that isn't entertaining or something you can learn from on every match. So Seth is definitely my top right now. Let's see. I like Damian Priest. That one's probably not something everyone would agree with, but Damian is actually I love him. I always thought of him as like this. To me, he always looks like if Scar from The Lion King was a person, that would be him.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
I do like Damian Priest, and for sure Gunther, the ring general gimmick fits him perfectly. I love Gunther.
Absolutely.
I can't take him too seriously because his entrance starts with the whole baby shark intro. But I love Gunther. He's phenomenal.
Yeah. And as far as Damian Priest goes, I remember watching him back in New Japan and Ring of Honor when he was Punishment Martinez, and even then on a smaller platform, I could tell the guy had something special. So I wasn't surprised when he shows up in WWE and ends up, in the position he's in now. The guy is just immensely talented. And, same thing with Seth Rollins. I'm a big Rollins fan, but, I really loved his Tyler Black stuff in Ring of Honor and on the Indies, and I love what he's doing now, but I do feel like his persona did get watered down just a little bit in WWE, But I mean, that's kind of the nature of the beast, though, with that system. But I mean, but yeah, he's incredible. So, in the past week of watching current wrestling, what has been your favorite match of the last 7 days that you've seen?
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I have not had a chance to watch wrestling within the past week. I don't watch it religiously like I
Hmm.
used to. I just kind of watch it. I mostly just watch what shows up on my phone, mostly because when wrestling is on, 9 times out of 10, I'm at training or I'm really not home very often. So to actually sit down and get to be able to watch an episode of SmackDown or Raw is very rare for me. Um,
Gotcha.
I don't think I've actually had a chance to sit down and watch it since Raw debuted on Netflix. And that's something I would like to work on more. But the way my life is working out right now, it's just when their shows are going on, I got something going on.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, you mentioned Natalia, but are there any other, and this can be present day or past, any other dream opponents that you would
Oh, Mickey
love to have?
James. Mickey
Mickey
James
James.
is she's my favorite female to ever step foot in the ring. She deserves, she should be in the Hall of Fame. Um, she's like, if I had to pick one person to ever have a match with, and that's the only match I could ever have ever again, it would be Mickey James.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, what is your favorite move? What is something you just really enjoy doing? And on the flip side of that, is there a move that you won't do or you would at least rather not do? And that can be giving or receiving.
So, my favorite move to do, I like inverted DDTs and flatliners, two very simple moves, but
Hmm.
they have a they look like they can be pretty damaging if they're done right. As far as moves as I won't do, um, I'm not huge on any type of flip bumps. We all have to do them. We're all trained to do them, but there's just it. There's a lot of times I won't do them specifically if it's at an indie show I've never been before and I'm working a girl who I haven't seen before. There's a lot of
Hmm.
trust that goes into that. And there's a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of, well, I need to know how you work before I do them because I'm trusting you with my life on these bumps. And
Yep.
so, like just a couple weeks ago, I did a match and the girl powered me over for a suplex. She didn't, for one, she didn't hook me correctly. She just kind of powered me over and dropped me on my head. And I had no time to prepare myself for that. So
Mm.
you got to communicate. Your timing has to be on point. But just for anything that involves going head over heels, I try not to do them just because I feel like there's other moves you can do that can be just as damaging, but be even safer.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So you're a pretty young wrestler. So this may not entirely apply at this point, but I'll ask it anyway. And that is, what hurts right now?
Uh, my shoulder, I'm actually about to have shoulder surgery. So I will be
Oh,
out of action anywhere between 2 to 6 months, depending on how the shoulder surgery goes.
gotcha, gotcha. And what is the most significant injury that you've suffered, either wrestling or training? Is it that shoulder, or
It's
is
either
there
the
something
shoulder
else?
or I also have a herniated disc that bothers me. So there's that. But between the two, I hurt a good bit.
Gotcha. So, what is your role? What is your take on the role that social media is playing as a promotional tool in wrestling, specifically indie wrestling?
I mean, social media is everything. It's how you get yourself out there now. It's how you find out about other promotions now. used to, you would just drive around and go out to the indie shows and you would present yourself, and that's still a good way to do it. It's more personal to do it that way. But nowadays, like, social media is everything. It's how bookers and promoters should be doing back checks on their potential workers that they're hiring. It's everything. Your social media presence is everything.
Absolutely. So again, you're a pretty young person, but knowing everything you know at this point in your life, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
I would have definitely taught I would, if I could, I would go back in time and tell my younger self how to, because I've had anxiety my whole life. Um, Definitely learn how to control that better, because now we're just full of anxiety. But try not to let the little things bother you. You don't owe anyone anything. Um, Not everyone is worth your time, and there's going to be people out there that are going to try to hurt you, even when you've given them the best you can possibly offer and you've been the best person to them you can possibly be. They're still going to hurt you in some way, and you just got to learn to let them go, not hold
Yep.
on to everything so personally.
Yep. So, do you have any pre-show traditions? Any things that you try to do consistently before you walk through the curtain?
I do a lot of stretching. I stretch from the time I get there, from the time it's time to walk through the curtain. Um, Hydrating, that's going to be that's when I really need to work on more. Um, Need to learn to start eating a good meal before a show. I had done a show recently, and I had a very stressful week that week. So I hadn't slept, ate, or drank anything. And after my match, I passed out once I got to the back. And next thing I knew, I was in the back of an ambulance headed to the hospital. So
Oh,
that was just a result of not taking care of myself properly. So from here on out, that's definitely going to change. So make sure I'm just hydrating more, eating eating a good meal before a show, and just try to relax. That's something I got
gotcha.
to work on.
Gotcha. So something that we've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is we've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. And one of my recent guests, a wrestler based out of Louisiana by the name of Ricka Wildley,
Yeah,
posed posed this question, and that is, what do you do to inspire others in the locker room, and what do you hope they get from you?
I mean, so I'm kind of known as the jokester in the locker room. I do everything. I'm also a little sarcastic. Um, So my main thing that I always do in the locker room is try to make other people laugh. And
Hmm.
then I hit them with the sarcastic comment. Um, if you don't haven't guessed already, huge fan of Chandler Bing. Me and him related great during Friends. But so that's my thing, is just trying to make other people feel comfortable, and just because we're there for a show day is roughly 10 hours long. So
Yeah,
I try to be there to make sure everyone is comfortable. I try to conversate with a lot of them, and I'm going to do my best to make sure they get a laugh while they're there.
gotcha. Well, since this is part of a series, do you have a question that you would like to ask to the next guest? And I can go ahead and tell you who the next guest is. The question does not have to be particular to him, but the next guest on Thursday at 7:30 p.m., I've got episode 109 with a wrestler based out of Iowa by the name of Casey Jacks. And interestingly enough, he is a product of the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy that
yeah.
Seth Rollins runs out in Davenport, Iowa.
Nice.
So, like I said, it doesn't have to be particular to him, but do you have a question you would like to ask?
Okay. When I guess the best way to put this, what do you think is more important? The way you look, the way your character is, or the way you work in the ring? Which one of those come first?
That is a really great question. How would you answer that?
I would say the way you look. The way you look is everything. Scott will tell you this story because he tells us this story almost every week. His brother, WWE Hall of Famer, Road Dogg Jesse James, there was a time when him and he was going to go out to do a match, and it was cut down to 4 minutes. And they said, look, we're just going to have y'all go out there. We're going to cut y'all's entrances. And Road Dogg went, no, 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 no. They can beat us in 1 minute, but give us our entrance, because your entrance is what makes you a star. It's the first thing people notice when they lay eyes on you. If you just go out there, you just quickly walk to the ring, you don't do anything to make them want to look at you, why would they pay attention to anything else you're doing?
Exactly.
So the way you look is everything. Everything else comes after that.
Absolutely. Well, before we wrap this up, I'm actually going to put some stuff up on the screen, and we're going to go through both nights of WrestleMania and get your predictions. So,
all right.
Okay, so night one, this is in no particular order, but we've got the War Raiders and the New Day for the tag team champions. Who you got?
I'm going with New Day.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, then we've got the U.S. Championship. We've got LA Knight and Jacob Fatu. Who you got?
Jacob.
Yeah. I'm a huge Jacob Fatu fan. I have been since he was in MLW, and I'm so glad that they are really pulling the trigger on him. I think the sky is the limit for that guy.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, Jade Cargill and Naomi.
I think Bianca is going to get involved in this somehow, and Naomi's going to go over.
Yeah, I agree. I think. I agree. I think Bianca's going to get involved, and to me, it's pretty obvious that Bianca's in on the whole thing with Naomi. So
yeah.
Okay, Rey Mysterio and El Grande Americano / Chad Gable.
I think I can't stand the whole El Grande gimmick.
I know. I actually feel bad for Chad Gable. He has been saddled with some really bad gimmicks over his WWE tenure. I remember when they had him being
true.
Shorty
That's very
G.
true, but that's very true. But last night at training, we actually talked about not this in particular, but just something that we're taught is you're going to be handled. You're going to learn how to eat shit and like it. And that's exactly what Chad is doing right now. And you're given a crappy role, you excel at it, you get rewarded. So,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, his pay rate is the same exact same, whether as if he did that gimmick or not. So, there's a good chance he probably doesn't care that badly, and that's the way it should be. So, if you gotta do what you just gotta work with what you're handed, and egos get in the way of that sometimes, and that's why you never see them again, or their careers just steadily get worse and worse instead of better, because they're just hard to work with, and that's just something that you're taught from day one, is to play the role that you're given and do it well. But to answer this question, I'm just gonna say Ray, because I really don't know, but I'm going with Ray.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, Tiffany and Charlotte.
I don't like the way this feud has gone about, but
I don't either.
I'm gonna. And either way, I don't really care, because I don't care for either one of them about the same.
Yeah,
So,
same here.
I'm just gonna say Tiffany, but I might be way off on that one. They look the same anyways.
Yeah, like you, I'm really not a fan of how this has all gone, and it's one of these situations, where they've really kind of blurred the lines a bit between what is genuine heat and basically what's a shoot and what's a work. And I've there's been all these rumors in the dirt sheets that there is genuine heat between these two,
And
but
that might be, they might have heat towards each other. We don't know, but sometimes you have to give the fans something real to keep them connected, because the stuff that's real, they're going to gravitate more towards that. So what I think happened was, when that whole promo went off script or whatever, it very well may have. And then WWE saw the way that the fans responded to it, and we got to keep this going.
Yeah.
So that's my theory. But clearly they're still keeping each other safe, and because what comes before wrestler? Professional.
Exactly.
And they're both professionals at what they do. And I really just think, of course it's all a work, but
ultimately
there might be some genuine heat between the two, and they're just playing off that heat, which is great. I love it when they do that.
Oh, I do too. I mean, I think the term there is a work shoot. So, okay, Jey Uso and Gunther.
They'll let Jay go over, but I like Gunther.
Yeah. Like you, I think they'll put the belt on Jay, but I don't think he'll have a long reign with it.
No.
And then this little three-way, Rollins, Reigns, and Punk with Paul Heyman on a pole.
I think Punk will go over.
Yeah, I think it'll either be Punk or Rollins.
I think it's going to be Punk.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Again, another match I'm not necessarily hyped up for, but they'll let Raquel and Liv retain.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so we're starting into night 2 now. This one, this match is one that I'm actually really intrigued to see play out.
You got 4 beyond talented guys right there. But
Yeah.
I'm excited to see Penta's first WrestleMania. I know that hype is gonna it'll definitely live up to the hype. But I don't think he'll go over on it.
No.
I'm gonna say Braun Breaker.
Yeah. I could see Breaker retaining, or I could actually see Dom Mysterio somehow, sneaking out a win to basically further generate heat between him and Finn Balor.
For sure.
This one I'm totally unexcited about. I feel nah.
Yeah.
I'll say AJ.
I'll be honest, I didn't know that match was happening. Um yeah, I don't really care. But yeah, I'm with you. I'll say AJ.
Mostly because I just don't want to see Logan Paul win.
Hey, Logan Paul is great. Oh, um, I like Drew. I do like Drew,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna say Priest.
Because he reminds you of Scar?
Yeah,
Okay.
I like Drew because it's always the accent for me. I don't know. I've had mixed feelings about this match too. So I have a feeling that Bianca's going to get involved with Jade and Naomi's match, and then somehow one of them gets involved with this match too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I
but my
think we're going to.
prediction is that Io will go over. She'll keep the title.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that happening. I could definitely see shenanigans happening, and more or less Rhea and Bianca basically cancel each other out, and you're kind of left with Io.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got this.
I think it's going to be kind of a similar lineup to last year. Like, it's not just going to be these two involved in the match.
Oh yeah, it's going to
I
be an
think
overbooked mess.
I think it's going to be something similar to what was already done, but I don't know. I think Rhodes will keep it.
Yeah, I actually think they're gonna put the belt on Cena. I think we're gonna see a wonky finish, but uh, I think Cena's going to end up with the belt, but it'll be plenty of shenanigans involved. But we'll see. It'll definitely be fun to see how it all shakes out. But so before we wrap this up, do you have any upcoming shows or anything at all that you'd like to give some hype to?
Yep. This Friday, so ahead of WrestleMania weekend, April 18th, there will be a live pay-per-view Ante Up at the Bullet Bob Armstrong Memorial Arena. You can either watch it on pay-per-view or you can come down to the Bullet and see all the action. And I will be facing a mystery opponent. So the
Oh,
story
nice.
behind that,
Do you have any idea who it's going to be? None
no
at all,
idea.
huh?
All I know is a couple weeks ago, a fan jumped the barricade, and then sprayed me with hairspray, and then stole my championship from me. And then
Oh,
a week later, she goes to management and says, "You know what? I don't really feel like being the champion anymore. Here's your title back. I don't belong in the wrestling business." I'm out. And management was like, well, do you really feel that way? Or do you just like want to try something else? And so next thing you know, she's promoted to general manager and I don't get my championship back. If you're going to steal something, at least give it back to the person that you stole it from. And I demanded to get my championship back. And she's like, no, as my first act as your new general manager, you're going to have to work for it against a mystery opponent of my choosing at Ante Up. And best believe that this Friday night, I will become the first 3-time women's champion in DCW history. Not only will I be a 3-time women's champion, but I will also be the only person in the company to ever hold a championship 3 times.
Gotcha. Well, that's definite confidence, and it sounds like you've got reason to have that kind of confidence.
I'm getting my championship back.
So looking over at the Instagram tab, we've got a guy in the chat, a guy named John McCool, who suggests that Dean Ambrose makes a surprise return at WrestleMania to take out Roman and Seth. Well, the problem with that is he's still under contract to AEW. So
yeah, I don't think that one will be happening. I don't think we're going to see a Shield reunion of any type anytime soon.
No. Which is kind of a shame because it was a cool faction, but you know, it is what it is. It's the nature of the business.
I mean, never say never, but not going to be anytime soon, I don't think.
No. But as far as what we've got coming up here on the Throwdown, like I said, on Thursday at 7:30, I've got episode 109 with Casey Jax, who is a wrestler based out of Iowa. And then next Wednesday, the 23rd at 7 p.m., I've got episode 110 with a pro wrestler who is also the leader of the Cream World Order and the head of the Intergender Bonanza, a guy named Stan Styles. And like I said, he's the head of the Intergender Bonanza, and that's basically a promotion that is strictly a battle of the sexes. Men wrestle women, and women wrestle men. So anyway, those are the next 2 that we've got coming. And you know, for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays and such, thank you for that. If you like what we've got going here, do the old like, comment, share, and subscribe. And before we wrap this up, do you have any final words, Vyra?
I think we covered everything. Just remember to check out Diamond Championship Wrestling this Friday, and you will watch history be made.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I'll be back Thursday night at 7:30. In the meantime, everybody love each other, be good to each other,